Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. It's a few days later. I can only apologise for that. It's totally my fault, guys. But I am here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's been a while. Aston Villa 1, Brentford 1. Happened a few days ago now. But less about that, mate. How are you doing?
I'm not bad, mate. Not bad. Having to hold my mic in my hands because I've just moved up to Manchester. So this will be the permanent Wiseman residence from now on. Hopefully, I'll have a bit of a better setup next time. It's just because we're still getting everything sorted that, I'm sat here like this. So I can't let you take all the blame for it happening a few days after, mate, because it's been a crazy, crazy few days over here. But yeah, had to go and rewatch some of the highlights, cast my mind back over the game because it feels like a little while ago now, doesn't it? But it's always good when you record it after the game because you get the best of both worlds because I think the stats come out, you get a bit more data about the game, don't you? And you insert straight after the game is a bit more of an emotional response. It feels a bit informed a few days after, doesn't it?
It does. And listen, Brentford, just what the epitome of bogey team for Aston Villa at the moment, Dan, aren't they? It just seems like in recent history, at least, we just can't beat them. We've not beaten them since we first played them back in September 2016. The first time we played them since 1953. It was a 1-1 draw at Villa Park, and I remember I was sat in the Doug Ellis that day, so we were near the away fans, and there's about 350 of them. It was a Tuesday night. I think they scored. They scored late. That's it. I think we went 1-0 up through Codger, who absolutely just rifled the ball in the top bins from like a 70-yard crossfield pass from Jedinak. And then I think Brentford may have scored late in that game, if my memory is serving me correct. Oh, John Egan. John Egan scored. Wow, I didn't realise he was even at Brentford. I've just got this up on 11v11.
The more you know.
The more you know, John Egan. Wow. Things aren't really looking good for him, are they now? But no, Brentford's such a bogey team, mate. And there is, a lot to love about Brentford in the way they recruit and the sort of ambitions of the club and everything. I just hate playing Brentford. And early on, Dan, when Ivan Toney, does what he does best, scores goals, finally gets off the mark. First goal in the Premier League this season, first goal ever in the Premier League. And he's running past the Holte end, doing the Zulu sign. I was fearing the worst, Dan. I really was. Things weren't looking too great. Brentford looked fairly comfortable and were very aggressive in their press, as they always are. And going 1-0 down early on, I think, if anything, if history's anything to say, that's never a good thing for Villa. However, against Newcastle, of course, we didn't concede, but we had the scare from Wilson early on. And this is the second time now where Villa have actually shown, in consecutive games at least, if we're going to ignore the Watford performance, Dan, that we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off and go again.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's definitely the positive way of looking at it because you're right. I think everyone was fearing the worst. I mean, from the moment that the lineup came out, the rumours were circulating, weren't they, in the morning that Mings has got COVID, McGinn's got COVID, Jacob Ramsey's got COVID. It's like, I didn't believe them because Villa fans do this, don't we? Why do we do it? Every match day, someone seems to start a rumour on Twitter. Yeah. And the whole goes into meltdown. Seems to happen every week. It's like last week. I can't remember what it was before the Newcastle game, but there was definitely one then. It was like, oh yeah, someone's in prison. It's like, Ali Watkins in prison. It's like, what is this? You're seeing all this sort of stuff going on. You're like, what is going on? So I saw this. It was like, oh yeah, these lads have got COVID. Do you think, this is just Villa doing what Villa fans do? We've got to start some sort of conspiracy before the game if we're at all to enjoy it. So I was like, nah, they won't have COVID. Because we had pictures that they were doing all that stuff with Tyrone, weren't they, the day before? It was like captain, and he was like loads of pictures of him in training. I was like, there's no way they're going to run all this stuff on social if Tyrone's got COVID. Turns out he's injured. He was actually at the game. He's picked up a rib injury apparently. So it was, half right, half wrong. But we saw the lineup, and then I was like, I was looking at it, I couldn't really figure it out. And then you got there and you saw Ashley Young was in midfield. And it's like, wow, okay, that is bold. And we go 1-0 down, as you said, really early on. It was shocking defending as well, wasn't it, mate? It's shocking. Yeah. I mean, how it goes all the way through all of those bodies, it ends up at Ivan Toney's feet, of all players. And he gave no chance in goal. And you're sort of thinking, I've seen this movie, as you were saying, with Brentford a few times before, mate. But when you concede an early goal, you always have a lot of time to get back into the game. And Villa saddled up nicely. It helped a lot, I think, that home fans were there. The response to going down was good, I thought. Yeah. There was no complaints with Villa fans. We started chanting and got straight back behind the boys. And then from that moment on, I think the support really, really willed them on. And it's a shame that we couldn't get the second. I thought we ended the first half after we scored, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a sec, really well, but we didn't seem to have that energy and that creative spark in the second half, which is a shame. But we've got to talk about the goal, mate.
Yeah, I mean, that little Cruyff turn from Buendia is beautiful. But for me, what makes the goal, Dan, is the link-up play that happens before. Anwar was on it, nice little 1-2 with Ings, and it was a wonderful pass from Ings. And just as that ball goes out of Buendia's feet to do that little Cruyff turn, you think, oh God, he's fucked it. He's given it to Kashi. He's killed the momentum we've got because Kashi's going to run into the byline and stand still. But to be fair, to give him his absolute credit, with the Cruyff, yeah, he went the other way as well. He thought, just as we all probably did, Dan, that this ball's going to Matty Cash, which gave Buendia the perfect amount of space to curl that one past Raya, who had a fairly good game, to be fair. He's a very solid goalkeeper. Certainly won't look out of place as a Premier League goalkeeper, in my opinion. Made some very good saves throughout the rest of the game as well, Dan, to be fair. But the goal is spectacular. And, I feel like now, as the games are going on, and I hate to talk about him. I don't want to talk about him, Dan. I really don't. But I know I've brought him up in every podcast since he's left, right? But Joe Grealish, since he's left, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. Like, this squad is more than capable. The players we've brought in are more than capable. I'm sorry, how many times did he do a little Cruyff and bend it top bins? It never happened. He never did that. I'm sorry, he didn't do it.
It's real talk.
Little star boy, absolutely wonderful. And looked a lot better for just a lot sharper as well. Obviously, he had that hip injury in pre-season, and as we've kind of already spoke to at length on this podcast, Dan, pre-season was absolutely abysmal for Villa. So again, that's something that we do have to take into consideration. But overall, I thought it was an okay performance. I thought the Newcastle game, there was a bit more from Villa in that game, because. And this isn't anything to do with Villa. Brentford and the referee, they absolutely can spoil the game down. I'm convinced we only played 50 minutes of football, and the standard of refereeing. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of the referee off the top of my head. I will try and find it here.
I think it was David Coote.
There we go, David Coote. We all know how fucking awful he was in the Championship. And it's one of them ones. You speak to any fan, they go, "Oh, this referee's got it in for us," whatever. Yeah, it's just a genuinely awful referee. The one that still I get angry at when I'm watching the extended highlights and that when the Brentford fullback ran into El Ghazi as the ball was being played to target and they get a free kick. You're thinking, how has this happened? What has the game come to? Especially as in the Newcastle game and the Watford game, the refereeing was much more consistent and was in line with the rules that we've, had to understand that the Premier League is going to be a bit more physical this season. And the first two games, the referees got it spot on for Villa, at least. Overall, I'd say probably in all the other games that I've seen, the officiating has been decent as well. But mate, this felt like the Championship days. And again, having Coote in the Championship, it's no surprise. But how do these guys get games, man?
Mate, you know me. I hate going on the podcast and blaming referees. Yeah. I hate it because for me, it feels like a cop-out. It really does. It's just something that you say when you've not been good enough. The ref, it was the ref. I hate it. I really do. I will look for every other reason to explain a loss before I look at the referees. But it was impossible to ignore in this game. The second half was so stop-start, which, last season, I'm not saying, don't want to say you can understand, but the rules were different. This year, especially when referees are supposed to let the game go and play. And that give an ebb and flow to a game. It just couldn't get started. And I said, just a couple of minutes ago, I didn't really feel like Villa were that good in the second half. I felt like we were definitely better in the first half, despite conceding. I actually thought we did a really good well of nullifying Brentford because apart from the Toney goal, I don't think they created a fat lot. You've got that chance from Rico Henry where he sort of, whether it's a cross, whether it's a shot, we don't really know. It slides just past the post. That could have been a goal, to be fair. So give them credit for that. But apart from that, we shut them out pretty nicely, I thought, especially considering we didn't have our captain in Mings, and we didn't have our vice captain in McGinn. So it's like, you've got players picking up the armband. You've got Axel making his first start. You've got Chuck making his first start, who was you could see it was his debut, couldn't it? Because like we all know Chuck's a great player, and there was a lot to take from that game. But things were, you could tell that it's difficult to rise to that occasion for the kid. There's a lot of pressure on that game, especially being put into, and they expect to hold down that midfield in a side with so many changes. I think when you consider that this was realistically Villa's third team, when you've got all the players fit, when you've got Mings, when you've got McGinn, when you've got Sanson, when you've got Traore, when you've got Bailey, when you've got Watkins fully fit, the list just goes on and on and on. When you've got all of those players, that's probably, we'll never see that 11 again. We'll never see Ashley Young and Chukwuemeka in a midfield. Like that's a third tier Villa 11. And the fact that I think we bested Brentford, who are a side that have a lot of good players. I mean, you only have to look at the Villa squad to realise that Brentford have players. Half of our squad is from there. I mean, they're a good team. They're a very good team. They turned over Arsenal. I mean, I know that's no mean feat at the moment, but first game turned over Arsenal, got a decent draw, I suppose, at Selhurst Park last week. They're a good side, and I thought that considering Villa's third team went out on that pitch, a side that have never played together in that. In that, Ashley Young, I don't think he's ever played a day of centre midfield in his life. Considering everything that was going on, considering that's a team of youngsters, of brand new signings, of players that have come in on loan, of players that have been there since the Championship, a real motley crew, all playing out of position, all, considering everything, a draw is not a bad result. It could have easily been a win. Could have easily been. You've only got to look at the Concert header in the first half, which sort of fell to Ings, and Ings put it straight to right. If that goes in, it's a completely different game. I did. If we defended that Brentford goal properly in the first place, it's a different game. I thought, all things considered, it's not a bad result. If we'd had all of those players I listed off just a minute ago and we drew 1-1 with Brentford at home, I'd have a very different tone on this podcast. But when you consider everything, all the circumstances that were going on in that game, to come away with a point, I mean, it's not that bad, is it? Am I just being a bit pie in the sky, mate? Do tell me.
No, I think you're spot on, mate. Again, you can't scoff at a draw to Brentford. The last time we beat them was in the 50s. It's just that simple. And there are positives you can take out of that game. Carney, I think, struggled at times. Good to see him get his debut, but more often than not, didn't really struggle with the physicality of the game, which I think was probably the one thing I thought he would. We'd seen him absolutely body Norgard and shove him on the floor early on, and really just to sort of assert his dominance and go, listen, I ain't here to be kicked about. I know what this level is. Whether he wasn't able to sort of maintain that, but you don't really expect it. He's 17. You don't want to burn the kid out. And as you say, mate, Young in the midfield, who'd have thought that would have worked? But it did. He's got the energy, he's got the tenacity, he's got the leadership, and dare I say it, a stroke of genius, tactical genius from Dean Smith. People won't like me saying that, because if you believe half the stuff you read on Twitter, Dean Smith's a fraud. But all things considered, it's not too bad. Ollie Watkins came back. Axel got a game. Courtney got a few minutes. Yeah, of course. Having Ezri come off is never good news. Hopefully Ezri is recovering okay. We've not really heard too much about that, but as days go, Archer almost got his Premier League debut as well. If it wasn't for Courtney getting injured, things aren't. It's not that bad, Dan. Really, is it? And I think I feel like there isn't much to talk about on this game other than Sergi Canos. What an absolute shithouse that man is. Awful. Pontus Jansson as well. The reception he got from the whole end was one I expected, to be honest. Pontus Jansson, hate that guy. Funnily enough, I was when because I think it was Mbueo went down and Villa played on. I was thinking, bloody hell, Jansson's going to absolutely crunch whoever's playing on him. After the whole Leeds situation, he'd have no leg to stand on complaining if we had scored. But no, it's a draw. Villa haven't lost. We've got 4 points now. We're going into what is going to be a fairly turbulent international breakdown, considering a couple of departures. And I do want to know your thoughts on this, Dan, because I'm undecided. I'm not angry. I'm not disappointed. I'm sure you guys have seen now EMI Squared are linking up with Argentina, despite the Premier League pleading that players don't travel with their nation to red list countries. because they will have to do the mandatory sort of 10-day isolation period when they get back. Although they're only playing in Argentina's first 2 World Cup qualifiers, and they'll miss the Bolivia game, which is totally understandable given it's Bolivia. No disrespect to any Bolivian Villa Filler podcast fans. We love you guys. It'd be unfair of you if we let Argentina play the Emmys in that game and miss another game out. But as it stands right now, Dan, they're missing the Chelsea game, which is part of me. I was discussing this last night, and part of me is thinking, well, do we win that game anyway? But then I'm also like, well, that shouldn't matter because I know Dean and I know these players will go into that game with the belief that they're going to get 3 points. So part of me thinks it's wrong of me and, maybe other Villa fans as well, Dan, to just write Chelsea off like that and say, it's okay, we'll chuck Jed in, we're going to concede anyway. Because, Buendia outfield will probably have a larger impact on the game than either of the 2 goalkeepers. So it is it's a difficult one, isn't it, mate? I totally understand that they want to go and represent their country. And, Emi is looking to lock down that goalkeeping position coming into the World Cup. Probably the last time he's going to get the chance to play with Messi at an international tournament on the biggest stage as well. And of course, that's going to be a big sort of draw for Buendia to get in that squad and kind of pick his brain. But some of the reaction I've seen from Villa fans, Dan, it has genuinely been nothing short of disgusting.
I think you can't, mate, like there's a lot of, nowadays there's a lot of debate, isn't there, sort of club over country and everything like that. But there is, whilst in England, a lot of us would choose the club game over the national team. You can't just then assume that it's the same for every other nation. Do you know what I mean? Like in Argentina, playing for the national team is like the ultimate. It's the same for all South American teams. You only got to look at, it's the same for in Brazil. It's the same with Argentina. Playing for the national team and pulling on that jersey is a fabled, like, nigh religious experience. Like it's the pinnacle of your career. Just because in England we don't give 2 tosses about our national team games, we much rather be seeing the Villa play, doesn't necessarily mean you can then force every other player to do that. These players have just won a first continental competition for Argentina in years. The squad, especially after the passing of Maradona and everything like that, and Messi announcing his retirement a few years and coming back, that it's a real prestigious thing to go and play for the Argentinian national team right now. And the players will have been given a choice, I'm sure. It's, Villa, you can't afford, if that's what these players are going to want to do, you have to support them. I don't agree with saying, Chelsea is a free hit and everything like that. But if these guys, they're in every right to go and want to play, especially for Buendia, who got cut. Let's not forget. He was in the sort of the 28-man squad, I think it was Copa America, correct me if I'm wrong, for the Copa America, got cut, didn't quite make it. And so now he's been called up. It's a big honour for him. We can't expect him just to turn that down because Villa are like, hey, 2 weeks, you've got to go and probably get mauled at Stamford Bridge. You gotta have some perspective. We can't just apply our norms and traditions to other players from other countries. It's like, you gotta. Well, I imagine a similar thing would have been said to Douglas when he went to when he had to miss the first game, wasn't fit game because he was at the Olympics. I imagine the same thing would have happened to him. We're not going to hold him back because he's gone on to win a gold medal, and what a fantastic experience that is for him. So it's like you can't just, you gotta. Each player has to be able to make their own decisions. If they're not available for Chelsea, it's a shame. We'd love to have them, but you've got to go and watch those players go away for those nationalities and root for them, and they'll have them back. It's a game that we probably wouldn't have won anyway. I totally get what you're saying, Dan, and we'll have them back for the game after that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like, as I say, I don't begrudge them for leaving. It is kind of frustrating. I can see why people are annoyed, but some of the stuff that you see, man, like, they're a disgrace. They shouldn't be taking the wage for the 2 weeks while they're away. I'm just thinking, get a grip, man. Like, I was just saying to you before we came on air, Dan, I just feel like at the moment, specifically on Twitter, there's just a lot of crap going around. I feel it's not the sort of happy-go-lucky place that it maybe was in the summer. Certainly at parts, it's certainly been dark over the summer. But I think, I just feel like we've got to chill, Villa fans. We've got to chill. We've got some very tough games coming up. And if we're being realistic about the season, it's going to be tough. it's going to be tough. And if we finish higher than 11th, if we finish higher than where we finished last season, then it's a successful season, whether we make Europe or not. I feel like people are worried it's Europe or bust. It's not. People are worried that we're not spending the extra net £7 million plus that we have from the Grealish sale. We're playing the long game. Villa are playing the long game, and I feel like that's something that we kind of need to realise. There are areas of the squad that need improving and assessing, but considering the amount of money we've spent over the past 5 seasons, there is some serious balancing of the books that needs to be done to ensure that we are complying with financial fair play. And this whole, FFP is getting relaxed. That's just something someone said. Like, I don't remember seeing anything from UEFA or the Premier League or whoever governs FFP domestically saying, oh yeah, it's fine. You can just go and spend, the best part of 50 million on a defensive midfielder. That's not these conversations haven't happened, Dan. So, if Villa don't sign anyone before the end of the window, I'm not going to be too disappointed because, Villa finish potentially higher in the table. That also frees up some more money next season to spend. There will be outgoings. I think El Ghazi has been linked with a 17 million euro move to Roma. Wouldn't surprise me if that happened in either January or the summer. Players like that sort of making their way out. Yeah, even maybe a John McGinn. If an offer comes in for John McGinn, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes. If it's in the sort of £30 million region, especially considering we only paid £2.5 million for him. Like, money still has to come in some ways. You can have rich owners, you just can't spend infinite amounts of money. Look at Wigan, look at Sunderland, look at countless amount of clubs that have gambled and fallen flat on their face, and now they're stuck in the lower sort of echelons of English football. And again, that extremely unlikely situation. Villa have a more than capable squad, more than capable manager. However, for legal reasons, I think it's best that we just abide with FFP. We really did flirt with it, and let's be honest, got lucky when we got promoted. If we didn't get promoted, the club is nowhere near where it is now. We're probably third division, just for lack of spending, having to sell players, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like a bit of perspective is needed on the sort of transfers. But on transfers, Dan, players going out on loan. Wesley's gone. He's gone back to Club Brugge. I think we spoke about this briefly last time. Conor Hourihan's set to join Sheffield United for a season-long loan, which is a move he's actually rejected a few times in the past out of respect to Barnsley. But it looks like this guy just needs to play football, which is totally understandable. And the Championship is absolutely his level. So I wish him all the best. And Dan, it seems like there's a few clubs interested in Frederick Gilbert. I think Fulham are interested. And I believe there was also a Turkish club. I can't remember off the top of my head. But with these guys sort of going out, I feel like it leaves. It's going to alleviate some pressure on that wage bill. It's going to keep things just a bit fresher in the squad as well. And I don't think you can argue that them three players need to go out and get game time, can you, Dan?
Nah, absolutely, mate. Look, I mean, I feel like as soon as we saw Young starting on that left side of midfield spot, we knew that Connor. Like it's like Wesley the other day starting behind Cameron Archer. It's like Young did very well, but it's like, okay, we need a midfielder. There's preferably got a left foot, can play on that left side of midfield, help out that Villa team. If you're not looking at Conor Hourihane in that situation, then something's going on, isn't it? Like if you're Conor Hourihane, you're seeing Young ahead of you, like it's you've not really got a place here. So yeah, I completely think I'm weirded out slightly by the idea of a loan. It doesn't really make sense to me because what is kind of going to come back in a season and be suddenly then he's going to be like, okay, yeah, you're back in the first team.
Well, he's got a year up on his contract, mate. So he's a free. This is a try before you buy for Sheffield United, essentially.
Yeah. And then it's just there are a few teams, there are a few players that I sort of feel like that with. Really, it's like Gilbert is probably another one where I feel like it's just got to be a sale at this point. I love Fred. I'm really, really gutted it hasn't worked out, but he's clearly not the man that Dean wants at that fullback spot. And so it's like you've got to give him the chance to go out and play football. I think the more you've got to, as you say, balance the books. I'm with you, mate. I don't really believe that even if we could, I don't really believe that throwing the book at it is the best way to get, the more players, and I've spoken about this on the pod before, I think the more players that you buy, the longer time period you have to give it to work out. Yeah. You want to buy a £50 million midfielder. Okay, that's absolutely fine. But look at Emi. Emi Buendia is only just starting to get his feet under the table at Villa. I'm so happy that he scored that goal, because the longer that it goes on, the more pressure he puts on himself, the more pressure we as fans put on him to live up to that £40 million. So it's great that he's got that goal. But you saw in the Newcastle and the Watford games that it takes time. It takes time for players to look at Marvelous in his first season. Look at Matty Target in his first season. It takes time for the players that you bring in. Takes time. So you want to go and buy another midfielder. That's absolutely fine. But there's no guarantee that immediately it's going to be any better than what we have at the moment. Look, I'm happy if we don't do any business. I've said a long time that I would like another holding midfielder. But look, you've got the players there. I think to get by until at least January. You've got to give these guys a chance to we don't know how good Villa are yet, do we? We haven't seen all of those players that we've mentioned a few times now. When they're back, when we've given them 2 or 3 games to get in the system, get used to playing with each other, then we'll know how good this squad is. Who knows if the squad is better than last season? Who knows if it's worse? We don't know because we haven't seen it yet. So, give it till about October, November, then we'll have a good idea of how good this Villa side is. But at the moment, considering that the 11 that we had to put out the other day, I don't think we've got a clue.
No, I think as well, a lot of whenever we get linked with a player, or whenever people are just sort of assessing the squad, they go, that's not a top 8 midfielder. That's not a Champions League midfielder. That's not a Europa League midfielder or whatever. That's the players that are getting brought in are simply just to get Villa there. If it happens, it happens. Villa aren't going to go out, as you say, Dan, and spend £50 million on a midfielder. The players that are, the players that are going to hopefully play these games and are going to have sort of big futures at the club are your Cameron Archers, your Jaden Philogene Badaces, your Carney Chukwuemakers. That's the long-term vision of the club is them, and whether only 2 or 3 of them make it, you've got Kane Kesler-Hayden as well. All these players, it's not going to be Matty Cash playing in the Champions League for Villa, Dan. It's not going to be Matt Target. It's certainly not going to be Wesley, as much as we'd love it. It's going to be Cameron Archer. It's going to be Kane Kesler. It's going to be these guys. And that's why we spent so much money on young players. That's why we spent £6 million on youth players, over the past 2 seasons. And, £6 million. But yeah, £6 million, we're talking for 12 to 17-year-olds, or even 19-year-olds if you're going to include Caleb Chukwuemeka. So I just feel like we've all got to just chill out a little bit. If we do make Europe within 3 years, that's an achievement in itself, because realistically, it's going to be a sort of 7 to 10 year project, isn't it, Dan? You're playing the long game, because nobody has the facilities to just go and drop 300 million in the same transfer window. Like Man City have tried to do this season, at least to kind of get you up there and sort of prop you up there as well. But Dan, before we go, you've got a story that you would that you need to share with the podcast. But before you do, actually, I need to give a shout out to Max as well, who's a listener. Max Cartwright, I hope you're doing well, buddy. I know you said I said I'd give you a shout out if we won. We didn't win. I'm going to give you a shout out anyway, just because you're a cool guy.
Nice touch, mate.
So thanks very much, Max, for watching, and James, his dad, because I know you'll be watching James. But Dan, please do tell me about your matchday experience today, mate. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, bro, it's half time. It's 1-1. Things are relative. I took my mum to the game, which was nice actually. Don't usually go that, but had a spare. Had season ticket was going spare today, so I was like, "Oh yeah, go on, mum. We'll go down the game together." She loves the Villa. We're sort of she's not really a football fan, but living with my dad and me and my brother, she's growing to really like it, and she loves the Villa now. So I was like, "Yeah, come on, mum. We'll go down the game together." I was stood in the concourse, just waiting for. Still haven't had a Balti pie since I came back to Villa Park. That's twice at half time I've tried now. Haven't made it to the front in time. And I'm not, I like a Balti pie, but I'm not choosing it over the second half. I'm always like, if I'm not there, I'll head back. So I'm standing in line, didn't get but I should have, you've just dropped 2 names there. Should have asked this guy for his name. But he turns around and he's like, "Oh, you that guy with the YouTube channel?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess, me, local celebrity." He was like, "Yeah, we'll get a photo." I got a photo actually with his missus. I don't know whether his missus was expecting it, but he was the fan. His missus wasn't. But he was like, "Oh, just get a photo." So I was posturing next to him, expecting his wife to take the phone and take the photo. But he was like, "Just get it with my wife." So okay. So I had the photo with my wife. That's the first time I've been asked for a picture. I think the same with you. Have you no photo ops yet for you, mate? From the podcast? So first for the Villa filler.
Anthony, one of the security guys,
yeah,
told me like the podcast
one
time when I went to a game last season for work. But yeah, no photos, mate. We're not. I mean,
that's the first. So shout out to my guy.
Tours or Dan Bardell's, are we, Dan? We're not.
No,
we don't have people lining up.
We'll get it, but little by little, mate.
Sat next to me for Watford. The amount of kids that come up to that guy and ask for photos is crazy, honestly. But no, that's really nice. It's weird. Have you seen?
So,
do you?
I haven't. I've been trolling through Twitter, but I can't find it. So if you're listening, I'm assuming he's a listener because you said So if you're listening, at me, it's my Twitter's changed now, so it's at Dan Wiseman _ at me in that photo. I need to see it, and I'll give you a retweet. See this photo for the podcast. We're giving it a shout. It's a seismic moment for the pod. So if you're out there, I wish I'd got your name. I feel really bad, but if you're the guy that asked me in Trinity Concourse for a photo with your wife, please tweet that at me and Dan because we need to see that, mate.
We need to see this photo. We absolutely do. That's made my day, Dan. That's brilliant. That is absolutely wonderful. But yeah, that just got you guys. You guys are absolutely incredible. You know, the support that you've given the channel recently. You know, the fact you're even listening to this like 3 days after. You guys are the real MVPs, and we appreciate you a lot. So yeah, if you ever do see us, don't feel shy. Come over, come talk to us. I know I'm awful at replying to the comments, but you know, if you see us at the games, we'd be more than happy to talk shop about Villa. You know, that's what we do, and that's what we do right now.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
For
so
sure.
You know, we won't talk about our work lives. Don't worry, we're not gonna bore you with that. We'll just talk about the football. But yeah, if you enjoyed this podcast, please do hit a like and comment your thoughts below on the game, on the international break. And let us know your thoughts on the Brentford game as well. That just to settle. I think I've seen a few people, to be fair, who've sort of revisited the game. But actually, it weren't that bad. So let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're closing in on, I think we're 4,700 subs nearly. And when we hit 5,000, we're going to give away a Villa shirt. So be sure to subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe, your family, whoever. Because when we hit 5,000, we'll be giving away a shirt for you guys. So yeah, as I said, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and up with Villa.